Back at it again with another video here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the highly anticipated and controversial documentary known as What is a Woman? And nowadays, you would think that that wouldn't be a very controversial question, just in general. But in today's atmosphere with the LGBTQ continuing their march towards equality, as they say it, and then you have the whole transgender movement, like invading girls' sports and girls' everything. It's getting kind of crazy out there. So it's actually a good question to ask, like, what is a woman? Recently, even in the Supreme Court, it was even questioned, what is a woman? Because the newest judge, Judge Jackson, at her hearing to get confirmation, was asked, can you provide a definition of a woman? And even she couldn't say it, claiming that she was not a biologist. But anyways, so let's go ahead and take a look at this documentary, and hopefully it'll be good. Oh yeah, and by the way, I'm going to go ahead and keep you up to date with what's going on with me, because I think it's not enough to go ahead and just take a look at things online. I think in order to go ahead and be part of MAGA and part of America First, we have to constantly be improving ourselves. So I'm going to be giving you continual updates how I am personally doing that. And the first part of it is I bought some books recently, and then I'll go over as I read through them. The first one that I'm starting off with was actually a recommendation from Jordan Peterson, and it was called Ordinary Men. I'm a little less than halfway through right now. I'll go ahead and give an update once I finish it and my thoughts on it, things of that sort. Right now, it's a pretty dang depressing book, having to deal with primarily with a Battalion 101 that invaded Russia during the Third Reich, and the travesties that happened there, just especially from the town of Trustfro. But yeah, we'll go over that another time. So let's get into the documentary.
Being a dad is one of the great privileges of my life. Give my son a BB gun, and that's just about all the emotional support he needs. My daughter, on the other hand, I've heard people say that there are no differences between male and female. Those people are idiots. And now our culture is telling us that the differences between girls and boys don't matter. That if you identify as something, then you are that thing. How do we help our kids make sense of this when they're bombarded with conflicting messages about gender and identity? Forget trying to figure out women. The real question is, what is a woman?
A great quote I got from a philosopher that I read was that man, or a human being, is the only being that refuses to be what it is. And I thought that was pretty profound for what we're looking at right now.
In the state of Tennessee, I'm a licensed marital and family therapist, which basically means I've been trained up to think about systems, family systems, how we were raised up, how that shapes who we are today.
So on your website, if you'll bear with me,
sure.
Quoting, you say, I use a combination of approaches in my therapeutic work, including anti-oppression, feminist, and narrative frameworks. I rely deeply on systems theory and understanding that individuals are products of and in dialogue with our surroundings, including our families, broader culture, workplaces, nature, and political climates. What does that mean?
Yeah, so thinking about the modalities that I use, I'm definitely informed by feminist family therapy, and the idea is that we live in gendered worlds where there are certain imperatives that are placed on us about who we are and what we do based on how we've been gendered. From the minute I was assigned female, I was told, okay, these are the kind of clothing that you're going to wear, these are the type of play that you're going to engage in as a child, the path that maybe your life will take because of social expectations.
What do you mean by assigned female? Who assigns female?
Yeah, so most times people, when they're born, they're assigned a gender
by the doctors.
Yeah.
Wait, what do they base that assignment on?
So basically, it's based on genitalia. So people looking at genitalia and deciding, okay, this is a girl or a boy. And And we know now that that sex and gender are so much more than just this binary. Some women have penises, right? Some men have vaginas. That's not how gender works.
My boy knows the basics, but gender affirming therapist doesn't. Wow. Is this an actual job?
Or that genitalia doesn't equal gender. Who they are, their gender expression, that, yeah, a trans woman is a woman.
With the fluidity of these things, how do I know if I'm a woman? You know,
That's a great question.
I like scented candles, and
Yeah.
I've watched Sex and the City.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
so how do I know?
Yeah, Matt, that question right there, that question is when it's asked with a lot of curiosity, right? That's the beginning of a lot of people's gender identity development journeys.
If my mom who gave birth to me is a woman, and my wife is a woman, though I haven't asked her, maybe I should. But if they're all women, and also the boy who sits down with you and says, I think I'm a girl, actually is one, then what is a woman?
Yeah. Great question. I'm not a woman, so I can't really answer that.
Holy shit.
Let me start with a real basic question. What is a woman? But you guys are all women?
We're all women. Yes, we're women.
So how would you define it, in the simplest terms?
That is hard.
A woman is someone that likes to be pretty and think of themselves as a delicate creature.
Defining womanhood
Holy shit.
is just a project of someone who identifies as a woman.
Yeah, but what do they
Power through. Power through.
What do they identify as? They identify as a woman, but what is that?
I honestly don't know.
So why is it so hard to answer?
Ugh, why do I want to throw up right now? Sorry.
This is going to take some serious investigation. For all of human existence,
Beyonce,
women
come on.
were understood to be a certain thing. So what changed?
Holy crap.
No one can seem to answer the question now. Over 2,000 surgeries and counting, Dr. Marcy Bowers is the nation's preeminent sex change surgeon. Surely someone who does sex change surgeries can answer what a woman is. So you're a world-renowned gynecologist and surgeon. You're also a transgender woman. Can you tell me a little bit about...
Well, I mean, I identify as a woman, but...
You're a woman, right.
I'm a woman that's my life, day to day, but I have a transgender history.
So one thing on your website, it says GAV, gender-affirming vaginoplasty.
Mm-hmm.
What is that exactly?
A vaginoplasty is creation of a female vagina and vulva. We're altering the physical characteristics of the individual to fit better with a gender identity that is female.
This is all constructed from the penis?
Yes, that's right. The surgeries are quite refined in the sense that they really, not only do they look like female anatomy, but they also function that way, for the most part. I mean, certainly it's a bit of a foul.
Did you know this was a thing? That you can get surgery to have a somewhat functioning vagina?
You know, it's not perfect.
Does anyone ever regret their surgeries? Or, well, we know they do, but how often do people regret their surgeries?
Well, actually, we don't know that they do. There are legitimate detransitioners, and there are people who truly feel that in their journey, they may have made a mistake. Now, fortunately, this is a really, really uncommon phenomenon.
I don't know if you've ever heard of people in the trans-abled community. These are people who are physically able-bodied but feel like they should be disabled or identify as such. For example, a man who has two arms but feels like he should have one. If a man in this kind of marginalized community went to the doctor and said, I want to have my arm cut off, do you think that...
That doesn't have anything to do with gender identity.
Well, it's someone's self-identity, how someone identifies.
That's someone who has and I'll accept it as a mental diagnosis a psychiatric condition. I don't even pretend to know what aptomenophilia is all about. But somehow it's the idea that you're fascinated or charmed by having a limb or part of a limb missing. Okay, I would say that's, pardon my non-medical language, kooky.
You don't see any? You think this is totally irrelevant?
Yep.
So the biggest, broadest question is, what is a woman?
A woman is it's a combination of your physical.
Oh man, I wonder if she caught on that he was leading her to use that word. Like, okay, so like what you just described, I consider that, person's not in the right mind. Like, you don't think that's relevant to what you're doing?
Attributes, and then what you're showing to the world, and the gender clues that you give, and hopefully those match your gender identity.
The critics on the other side of this, of this issue.
There aren't many, but go ahead.
There aren't many who would disagree with what you're saying about.
Well, the dinosaurs of the world are certainly out there.
Now, you had an incident here a little while ago that went really viral online. Lots of reaction in the public.
Aberdeen Councilwoman Tiesa Meskis confronted owner Don Suker about a sign he posted in his store.
One day I just put the sign up over here, and he came around the corner, and I thought, okay, I recognize him. I says, oh, I recognize you. You're our new city councilman. He says, no, I'm your new city councilwoman. So it was kind of on from there.
You know what? It's bullshit.
No, what you're spouting is bullshit.
No, it's not. Trans women are women, sir. That sign is bullshit.
I've been doing this 25 years. I've never had a problem with anybody, whether they're gay, transsexual, anything.
Now, you're saying councilman, this individual was saying, I'm a woman.
Right.
And you said you're not a woman. How do you know that person's not a woman?
How do I know?
Yeah.
Well, common sense.
If someone identifies as a woman, then they are.
No. Now, that's completely bogus. I don't care if you think you're a sheepdog and you come into my store. It don't matter to me. Just don't come in and try to shove that shit down my throat.
If it makes someone feel better, what about their feelings?
I don't give a shit about their feelings. I'm old.
We're on a Star Wars universe.
You got it, man. You got it. I love this guy already.
Asexual, do you think? You're not a scientist. You're not a gender studies major. Or are you?
No.
No? Okay. How do you know that you're a man?
How do I know that I'm a, I guess because I got a dick.
Well, I guess Don isn't overthinking it. He admits he's not a gender studies major.
The only guy that could answer it was a comic shop owner, and he can answer it very succinctly. How do you know you're a man? Because I got a dick. Oh man, that's amazing. It's amazing that like all these intellectuals that he's interviewed so far couldn't like narrow down what it is a woman. But this guy over here, he knew right away. Yeah, I'm a man.
My name is Michelle Forcier, and I have a medical degree from University of Connecticut, residency, University of Utah Pediatrics, and I've worked for a number of different Planned Parenthoods for 20 years. I do advanced contraception and abortion, as well as gender hormones, and sort of looking at the whole sort of schema of gender, sex, and reproductive justice.
So you've done a lot of work in this field. Could you just start by telling us?
Sure.
At what age can a child first begin to transition into another gender or identify themselves as a gender different from how they were born?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's research and data that show that babies and infants understand differences in gender. Some children figure out their gender really early, and the reason why we say, oh, that's interesting or important is because they're figuring out their gender identity is not necessarily congruent with their sex assigned at birth.
When the doctor sees the penis and says, this is a male, has the sex of male, that's an arbitrary distinction?
Telling that family, based on that little penis, that your child is absolutely 100% male identified, no matter what else occurs in their life, That's not correct.
What's the gender affirmation process?
Affirmation means that as a pediatrician, as someone who says my job is to provide the best medical care for you, is I need to listen really carefully. And how I put it in words for kids so that they can understand it is, tell me your story. Where have you been in terms of your gender and your gender identity? Where are you right now? And more excitingly, where would you like to be in the future?
Parents, hide your kids. Hide your kids, man. Vet your pediatricians, please. Please. Vincent, I'm talking to you. Vet your pediatrician, please.
But Santa Claus is real for them, but
Yeah.
Santa Claus is not actually real.
Yeah, well, but Santa Claus does deliver their Christmas presents.
Well, yeah, but he's not real, though.
To that child, they are.
When I see a child who, believes in Santa Claus, and then let's say this is a boy and he says, I'm a girl.
Mm-hmm.
This is someone who can't distinguish between fantasy and reality, so how could you take that as a reality?
I would say that as a pediatrician and as a parent, I would...
Ooh, great question. Oh, hit her with the hard one right off the bat. Nice.
Say how wonderful my 4-year-old and their imagination is.
Should we really let our children define reality?
What's true to you can be false to me. So like, it's like.
What if I said that it's true? My truth is that you don't exist. Does that mean you no longer exist?
I mean, if that's your truth, sure. I don't. Because
But you do.
Well, I mean, if you're saying that I do, then I do.
Well, but even if I said that you don't, you still do, because we're having this conversation.
I mean, are we?
What we do in gender studies is not just reduce gender to what psychologists might call individual differences, but rather thinking about gender. And that's not women and man, but gender as a social form, something that kind of infuses itself into virtually all aspects of social life.
Well, let's talk about that then. I guess we should start with, we've got gender and sex, right?
Yeah.
What's the difference between the two? Is there a difference?
I saw that in your questions and I thought, my goodness, this is what we spend an entire semester kind of thinking through. But what we tend to think about in the social sciences today is that sex refers to a set of biological characteristics and gender is a social construct or category. About sexuality right now. In the kind of academic universe that I travel in is that we see how
Okay, so I guess the notion is that he's droning on
cultural ideas about masculinity and femininity, maleness and femaleness, both in humans and in lots of other animals.
So are gender and sex two different things, or?
Well, I think that they both are and they aren't.
He never answered the question.
That gender and sex are two different constructs, but they're deeply intertwined with each other.
A trans woman has all of the male physical characteristics, so would that not be a male then? Couldn't we plainly say this person is a male?
Well, I guess it's like, why are you asking the question? I think I want to understand sort of why that's so important. So if someone tells
Just
you...
to sort of understand reality?
Well, I mean, I think when someone tells you who they are, you should believe them. So if a person says that they're a woman or they're a man, then that's them telling you their gender is. I'm not so sure what social interactions would have to do with maleness or femaleness that would.
Well, I'm not even talking about social context. I'm just trying to start by getting to the truth.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really uncomfortable with that language of like getting to the truth again in social life.
Why is that uncomfortable?
Because it sounds actually deeply transphobic to me. And if you keep probing, we're gonna stop the interview.
Truth is very troubling and transphobic. The word truth. And this is a professor in a university. They don't like the word truth. Got it.
Probe about what the truth is?
You keep invoking the word truth, which is condescending and rude. I'm saying to you...
How is the word truth condescending and rude?
Why don't you tell me what your truth is, and you're walking on 30 seconds more of thin ice before I get up.
What my truth is? Well, I don't think I really have a truth. I think that there's just the truth, like the reality. And so we should begin by trying to figure out what the reality is. someone can make a statement about themselves that could be untrue. Like, for example, if I were to say that I'm a black man, would you accept that, or would you be skeptical?
Are you black? Are you African American? Are you biracial?
I don't think so.
Okay, well, you don't look that, and I don't think it doesn't sound like that's a genuine statement of who you are.
Okay, so that's my point. I could make a statement about who I am that's incorrect.
Of course, I think it's well established that human beings can lie, yes.
Or not even lie. I mean, I could just be mistaken.
Yeah.
What is a woman?
Why do you ask that question?
I just really like to know.
What other kinds of answers have you gotten?
A lot of like this, where you're not answering, and I've gotten a lot of that. So
I think it's interesting that you say that some of the people you've interviewed have been reluctant to answer it, and I think that has a lot to do with the questions that preceded it, and the way that you've conducted yourself in the interview.
How have I conducted myself?
How do you think you've conducted yourself?
You just really don't want to answer the questions, do you?
I came today very willing and enthusiastic about answering questions about women's and gender sexuality studies, which is the work that I do.
You wanted to answer questions about women's studies, and so shouldn't the first answer you should be able to provide is what exactly is a woman?
Well, for me, it's actually a really simple answer, and that's a person who identifies as a woman.
But what are they identifying as?
As a woman.
But what is that?
As a woman.
Do you know what a circular definition is?
I do. Well, because you're seeking what we would call in my field of work an essentialist definition of gender. I think it sounds like you would like me to give you a set of biological or cultural characteristics that are associated with one gender or the other.
I'm not.
So this professor, I'm having a hard time to even accept that. This professor at a university said that a woman is a woman. We learned a long time ago that you don't use the word to define itself. And that's exactly what this professor is doing. Yeah, college is a scam, guys. College is a scam. Oh, whoa. At least this college is, anyway. I can't speak for all of them. But whatever classes this guy's teaching, I would get your money back.
Dr. Grossman, thanks for talking to us. You're a psychiatrist, medical doctor, and you've done a lot of work in child psychiatry. What is transgenderism from a psychiatric standpoint?
The best way to approach it is by speaking about gender dysphoria, which is an intense loathing and discomfort with one's biological sex. They exist anywhere between 1 in 30,000 people and 1 in 110,000. It's important to distinguish those people from what's happening much more recently, which is kids that never had any discomfort or dysphoria, as it's now called, with their biological sex. And then quite suddenly, as preteens or as adolescents, they come out and they announce that they are gender fluid, or they start to question their sex. So first, let's define the terms, sex and gender.
Yes, please.
Sex is biology. Sex is unchanging. It's based on chromosomes. 99.999% of the cells in the body are marked either male or female. Gender, on the other hand, is a perception. It's a feeling. It's a way of identifying. It's an experience. Okay, that's subjective.
It sounds like what you're saying is that if a man is male but thinks of himself as a woman, he's not actually a woman?
That's correct.
Male.
Oh man, she saw Kindergarten Cop. I bow to you. Expert, the only expert I've seen thus far has been in this woman so far. Been able to identify it very straightforwardly. If you ever seeking a psychiatrist for your young ones, I would send them to her.
No,
Your sperm don't make you male.
Then what does?
It's a constellation.
In reality, in truth, okay?
Whose truth are we talking about?
The same truth that says we're sitting in this room right now, you and I.
No, you're not listening.
If I see a chicken laying eggs and I say that's a female chicken laying eggs, did I assign female, or am I just observing a physical reality that's happening in the world?
Does a chicken have gender identity? Does a chicken cry?
Well,
Does a chicken commit suicide? Let's
What does that have to do
frame
with-
it, because you're trying
A chicken has sex like any
a chicken
biological
has
organism.
an assigned gender, but a chicken doesn't have a gender identity.
So we assign female to chickens when they lay eggs?
We assume they're female if they lay eggs.
Now, I was told that really everyone agrees with the current approach to gender and transitioning kids and all of that. And if you don't agree, that you're a dinosaur and a bigot. So are you a bigoted dinosaur?
I'm not bigoted and I'm not a dinosaur. I am rooted in reality and in science.
Whose reality?
There's one reality.
Wow. Best answer I've ever heard when it comes to this whole thing about like self-identifying realities. There's only one reality. Whoa. Oh, well done. Well done. Oh, I tip my hat to her.
And once the gun went off, the two transgender athletes took off flying and left all of us girls in the dust. Throughout all 4 years of high school, I was forced to compete against biological males. I only competed against them in the sprinting events, but I raced against these athletes over a dozen times throughout the years, and every single time I lost.
Did they inch you out of medals that you would have won otherwise, or trophies you would have
They
won?
beat me out by 20 meters out of medals, and qualifying spots. I missed out on qualifying for New England's. I had to go in the long jump and the 4x200 meter relay, so I was forced on the sidelines in my own event, and if they were not there, I would have been able to qualify. So I missed out on so much throughout my high school career.
Did they win all the events or almost all the events?
Between the two of them, they won every single event they competed in. It is so frustrating and heartbreaking because we elite female athletes train so hard to shave just fractions of a second off of our time. And going into races knowing that we will never be able to win. After so many losses, it just gets to the point of, why am I even doing this? Why am I keep training so hard and sacrificing so much just to place third and beyond?
Man, it looks like she was getting choked up there. I want to play devil's advocate to say, like, the mere fact that you're, getting this good, you're getting faster and you're getting stronger and quicker is, good into itself. But if you're trying to like make something of yourself in the world, and maybe she's trying to maybe compete in the Olympics one day, or maybe she wants to make this her career up until to the point where she can no longer do it, that would probably take her into her 30s, or maybe even a little less, depending. But having those transgender athletes in there are just another obstacle she has to overcome. And with all this talk about the patriarchy and about how males are dominating females in all aspects of life, it seems like this is a good argument for those types to say, like, yeah, this biological male entered a female domain and is now taking it over. You think the feminists would, like, speak out against it? Why aren't they?